Hello and welcome back to Curbside Car Maintenance. So today we're going to change the CV boot on the drive shaft, and we're going to change the transmission oil seal. Get the existing CV boot off of the drive shaft. Next, get some circlip pliers or a screwdriver, a flat screwdriver, and prise off the circlip on the end of the drive shaft with the spider gear. Once you take that off, what you need to do then is to get a puller to pull the spider gear off of the end of the shaft. So if you've not got a puller, then you need a nylon mallet, the same as I have, and then we're going to drive it off the end of the shaft. But before we do that, first of all, what you need to do is to make a mark on the end of the shaft with the spider gear, an alignment mark, and you can do that with a scriber or something that would scour into the metal to give you that alignment mark. Now if you take that spider gear off and you lose the alignment mark, what you're going to have to do is to release the clip at the other end of the drive shaft, and you're going to have to align the spider gear with the other gear on the end of the shaft. Those gears need to be in alignment. If they're not in alignment, when you're putting it back together, the drive shaft is going to be out of balance. So it's very important to make sure you get them correct. So what you need to do is to drive off the spider gear, and you can use the mallet and slide it down the shaft of the drive shaft to the spider gear, rotating the shaft as you driving the mallet down towards the gear, and drive that off the end of the shaft. Once you've got it off the end of the shaft, you'll need to get out your new CV boot, slide that down the shaft, and you could put the small retaining clip on there as well at the same time. Once that's back on there, you need to get your spider gear, put it back on the end of the shaft, align those alignment marks back up again, and drive it onto the shaft. You can use a socket to do that, to drive it down, and then drive it past the retaining ring slot, and then put your retaining circlip back on. Once you've done that, you will need to cover the spider gear with grease and tap your bearings back on. Once you've taken those bearings off in the first place, don't try and wash them out. They're packed with grease. Just leave them as they are, put them somewhere to keep the dirt away from them, and then put them back on. You may need to tap them on with the mallet, and then they're ready to go back into the housing. You don't want to put it back into the housing just yet. What I'm going to tell you next is you want to get the seal, take the seal out of the box. There's the seal with the code number that you'll need. Coat that seal in transmission oil. On the outside and the inside of the seal, just coat that with transmission oil, and then you want to put that seal onto the inner CV outer housing as I have done here. Line it up to the gearbox, make sure it's in line, and then hit that centrally if you can with a plate and your mallet, and tap it in centrally back into the gearbox. Here's a picture of me as I tap it from side to side as I'm tapping that into the gearbox. This was the best way for me to get that back into the gearbox without splitting the seal or bumping the seal. I did try it the other way first. I assembled the drive shaft and then tried to put it in, and once I put it in, it bumped the seal, and then I had to take it all out again because it leaked, and do it again. This was the way for me that it worked. Once I had got that inner CV housing into the transmission and in place, it was just a case then of just turning the bearings in on the drive shaft, so that it didn't catch when I put it into the inner CV housing, and then slide the drive shaft back in. Once the drive shaft was back in, it was just a case of putting the big circlip on there. Make sure that outer housing's nice and clean before you put the CV boot over and onto it, and put your outer clip on there. Tighten that outer clip up, rebuild your drive shaft assemblies and that as you took it apart from the previous video. Tighten the wheel nut up as tight as it was when you took it apart, and that essentially is the drive shaft stripped down, CV boot renewed, transmission seal in and put back together. Once that's done, you need to top up your transmission fluid because you'll have lost some there when it leaked in the first place, and you will be good to go. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye bye.